A wealthy businessman returns home unexpectedly, only to find his stepmother assaulting his daughter. His reaction leaves everyone stunned. If this opening grabbed your attention, just wait until you see what happens next. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. The grandfather clock in the grand marble foyer chimed as Marcus Thompson pulled his Bentley into the circular driveway of his Malibu mansion. He hadn't planned to be back for another 3 hours, but the board meeting had concluded sooner than expected. An unexpected homecoming always evoked a certain feeling in him. A peculiar blend of excitement and fear gripped him. Maybe it was the same executive instinct that had propelled him to billionaire status by 40. As he neared the imposing oak front doors, a sound froze him in his tracks. A child's wail, not just any wail, but the desperate, anguished cry of his 6-year-old daughter, Aria. Marcus's blood ran cold as he heard another sound that sent a shiver down his spine. Harsh, cutting words being yelled. "You useless, clumsy little thing. Look what you've done to my precious rug. You're nothing more than an error, just as you're." Victoria's voice, sharp and unyielding, sliced through the air, leaving Marcus frozen with his hand on the door. Aria's voice, strained and choked with sobs, pleaded, "Please, Mommy Victoria, I'm sorry." "I was trying to get my water cup, but my crutches slipped and I spilled it. I didn't mean to." The impact of Aria's words struck Marcus forcefully. His late wife, Sarah, had been his soulmate, and Aria, her cherished legacy. 2 years prior, he had married Victoria, assuming she would be the Aria who desperately craved a loving mother figure after the loss of her mother Sarah to cancer at the tender age of 4, let out another heartbreaking cry. This sound prompted Marcus to action. He rushed through the front door, only to be met with a scene that froze him in his tracks. In the heart of their lavish living room, his beautiful daughter was curled up on the floor beside an overturned water glass, her small frame racked with sobs. Her cherished pink crutches, adorned with butterfly stickers that she adored, were strewn across the floor beside her. Victoria towered above her, her arms crossed, Victoria's face contorted in disgust. Marcus's powerful voice echoed through the room, making the crystal glasses on the mahogany bar vibrate. "What in the world is happening here?" Victoria whirled around, her expression shifting from surprise to something else. Fear. For a brief moment, Marcus saw a glimmer in her eyes that sent a shiver down his spine, more unsettling than Aria's screams. It wasn't merely anger or annoyance, it was something more profound, more sinister, something resembling pure hatred. "Marcus, you got back sooner than expected," Victoria said, her voice instantly returned to its characteristically sweet tone. She smoothed her blonde hair and adjusted her designer outfit as if the incident had never occurred. "Aria had a little mishap with her water," she explained. "I was simply trying to teach her to be more mindful of valuable items." Marcus gazed down at his daughter. Aria's golden tresses were tangled around her face, and her large blue eyes, mirroring her mother's, were filled with pain and bewilderment. Her cheeks were flushed and tear-stained. However, the thing that truly devastated Marcus was the expression on. A defeated acceptance lingered in her eyes, as though this wasn't a novel experience for her. "Daddy," Aria murmured, extending her arms towards him with shaking hands. "I was just trying to get my water because I was parched, but when I shifted my weight on my crutches incorrectly, everything went tumbling down." I apologized repeatedly, but Marcus crouched beside his daughter, his heart shattering at the view of her tear-streaked face. In the moment he embraced her, he observed something that ignited his fury. Aria recoiled a little when he touched her arm, and then Marcus observed faded marks on her wrists, not bruises, but reddish discolorations as if someone had held her too tightly. For how long has this been happening? He inquired, his voice hushed and menacing as he held Arya close. Victoria's complexion drained of color, yet her voice stayed composed. I don't understand what you're suggesting, Marcus, she replied. Children with special needs need firm direction. Arya must learn that the world won't perpetually adjust to her challenges. The way she spoke of challenges caused Marcus's jaw to tighten. Arya was born with an uncommon medical condition that impacted her. Victoria's leg muscles were so weak she needed crutches. But she was a remarkably bright and spirited child, one of the most exceptional he'd ever encountered. The doctor had even remarked on her exceptional mind. She was already reading at a fourth-grade level and solving complex math problems that astonished her teachers. Daddy, Arya murmured into his shoulder, I'm afraid of upsetting her again. This simple statement shifted something within Marcus. He looked at Victoria with newfound clarity, peering past her beautiful exterior to a chillingly cold and calculating nature lurking beneath. On how many occasions had he returned home to find, is Arya unusually quiet or reserved? How often had Victoria justified Arya's tears as mere tantrums or a bid for attention? Get your belongings, Victoria, Marcus stated, his tone slicing through the thick silence. You have 1 hour. Victoria's composure crumbled. You can't be serious, she exclaimed. Over this child's melodramatic display. Marcus, she's manipulating you. Can't you recognize that? She deliberately makes messes to gain attention. However, Marcus was already making his way to the stairs, carrying Arya to a secure location. As he ascended, he sensed Victoria's voice escalating behind him, its sweetness replaced by a desperate edge. You'll regret this, Marcus Thompson, she hissed. You have no comprehension of what you're relinquishing. Her words held a chilling threat. That child will destroy your life, just as her mother attempted to. There was a veiled implication in her tone, a promise that this wasn't the end. It hinted at secrets Victoria possessed, secrets that could be more perilous than Marcus could ever fathom. When he reached the top of the stairs, Arya gazed up at him, her eyes filled with an uncanny wisdom. Daddy, she asked, why does Victoria, his mother, truly speak to him in such harsh ways? Had he truly caused her pain simply because he required crutches? Marcus's heart ached, splintering into countless fragments. Yet he understood this was merely the start. Whatever the motivations behind Victoria's cruelty, whatever secrets she kept concealed, he would expose them. No one would ever again make his daughter feel insignificant. Yet, as Victoria's cruel laughter reverberated from below, Marcus couldn't dispel the unsettling notion that eliminating her wouldn't be as straightforward as sending her packing. Certain storms, once unleashed, could. They left a trail of destruction in their wake. 3 hours later, Marcus sat in his study, his phone pressed to his ear, whispering with his security chief. Arya slept restlessly in her room down the hall, and the emotional scars she bore spoke of a story Marcus regretted not recognizing sooner. The realization of the psychological abuse she had endured filled him with a profound sense of sickness. I need a full background check on Victoria Hastings, Marcus instructed James Morrison, his head of security. All of it, from her childhood to just yesterday. I'm uninterested in any of it. Costs aren't an issue, Marcus said, rubbing his temples as a headache began to form. I ran a preliminary check when you got engaged 2 years ago. Everything came back clear. Wealthy family from Connecticut, deceased parents, trust fund beneficiary. Let's run another check, this time more in depth. And James, I need a complete account of the night my wife Sarah died. Victoria was present that night, claiming to be Sarah's best friend, offering comfort in her final hours. The silence from the other side of the line was so prolonged that it constricted Marcus's chest. Sir, he began, is there something in particular you're... Marcus pondered Victoria's earlier statement. You have no idea what you're throwing away. Her tone had been strangely victorious, as if she possessed secrets he was unaware of. Just find everything, James. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss about Victoria's sudden appearance in their lives. He then went to Arya's room. She was awake, her gaze fixed on the ceiling, her thoughtful expression mirroring Sarah's. Her room was a haven of princess-themed decor. Delicate pink walls adorned with butterflies fluttered in her stomach, surrounded by a canopy bed fit for a queen, and bookshelves overflowing with volumes far beyond her supposed comprehension. Angel couldn't sleep. Arya turned to him, and Marcus felt a pang in his heart at the sight of her eyes, still red from earlier tears. Daddy, she began, I need to tell you something important, but you have to promise not to get upset with me. Marcus settled on the edge of her bed, gently taking her small hand in his. I could never be upset with you, sweetheart, he assured her. What is it? I've been hiding things from you. Since Mommy. After Sarah's death, I found myself intently listening to adult conversations, terrified that someone else might leave. Arya spoke in a hushed tone. Mommy Victoria makes disparaging remarks about Mommy Sarah when she believes I'm not listening. She claims Mommy Sarah was weak and foolish, and that's why she passed away. Victoria says I'm destined for the same fate because I share Sarah's blood. Anger surged within Marcus, but he maintained a soothing voice. And what are your thoughts on that? Arya's gaze held a spark of intelligence that belied her 6 years. I believe Mommy Victoria is afraid of something. Since Mommy Sarah passed away, I've been reading books about emotions because Dr. Peterson said understanding them can be helpful when you're grieving. Dr. Peterson explained that people often express unkindness when they are scared or experiencing inner pain. Dr. Peterson was Arya's child psychologist, a professional Marcus had brought in to assist her in coping with her mother's death. The psychologist was impressed by Arya's emotional intelligence and her talent for understanding the unspoken messages behind adult actions. What else did Mommy Victoria say? Angel, she continued, speaking on the phone. Occasionally, when she believes I'm enjoying my afternoon solitude, I'm actually very adept at remaining silent and listening intently. Arya's voice lowered to a hushed tone as she conversed with someone about finances, documents, and the imperative of keeping something concealed permanently. A shiver ran down Marcus's spine. Do you recall anything else? She asked. She repeatedly uttered the name Blackwood, and her anger always flared when she spoke of Mommy Sarah's will. She makes statements such as, that woman believed she was intelligent, and we'll see who ultimately prevails. The final say belonged to Sarah's will. Marcus had taken care of all the legal aspects following his wife's passing, but Victoria had shown a peculiar interest in the specifics. Initially, he'd assumed she was simply being helpful, wanting to ensure Arya's future was protected. Daddy, there's something more, Arya whispered, her voice barely audible. Occasionally, late at night, I hear Mommy Victoria in your office. She types on the computer and examines documents. I know this because my bedroom is located directly above your office, and the aged floorboards make a creaking sound whenever someone walks on them. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. His office held confidential business documents, personal financial records, and most significantly, all of Sarah's belongings and papers, which he'd never managed to properly examine. Arya, this is crucial. Do you recognize what papers? She asked, her gaze fixed on the pink folder with Mommy Sarah, written in elegant script. And she always checked the small silver box where Mommy kept her special jewelry. On occasion, she photographs objects. With her phone in hand, Sarah's meaning was crystal clear to Marcus. Sarah's jewelry box held more than just her treasured belongings. It also contained personal letters, photographs, and a key to a safety deposit box Sarah had spoken of before her passing. but which Marcus had never dared to unlock. It felt too definitive, too much like surrendering to despair. "Daddy," he'd said, "I think Mommy Victoria isn't who she claims to be. I overheard her on the phone once using a different name. She identified herself as Victoria Blackwood, contrary to the Victoria Hastings she had previously shared with us." A noise then, downstairs, made them both freeze. Footsteps in the foyer, too confident and familiar to be the housekeeper who had left hours ago. "Daddy," Arya whispered, instinctively moving closer to him. Marcus stood up, every protective instinct screaming, "Stay here, Angel. Lock the door behind me and don't open it for anyone but me." As he moved toward the stairs, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Checking up on your precious little princess. Certain secrets are too perilous to overlook, Marcus. Your spouse," she was concealing more than she revealed. "To understand the true nature of the situation, inspect her safety deposit box. V." The text included an address and a key number, the same safety deposit box Marcus had never accessed. With trembling hands, Marcus understood that Victoria hadn't merely been emotionally abusing his daughter. She'd been engaged in a far more sinister, perilous game. And Sarah's passing might not have been as accidental as people assumed. From upstairs came the sound of Arya's door locking, followed by her small voice calling out, "Daddy, please be careful. I love you." As the footsteps moved through his house, footsteps that definitely belonged to Victoria, despite his demand that she leave, Marcus realized that his daughter's safety, and possibly both their lives, depended on uncovering whatever Victoria had been searching for all these months. The truth about Sarah's death was buried somewhere in that safety deposit box, and someone was willing to do whatever it took to keep it buried. The next morning dawned gray and stormy, matching Marcus's mood as he sat opposite Detective Rachel Chen in the downtown police station. He had contacted the police after discovering evident signs of someone entering his home the previous night. His office displayed subtle disruptions, and Sarah's jewelry box had been relocated. "Mr. Thompson, I empathize with your worry regarding your daughter's emotional well-being, but establishing proof of psychological abuse can be difficult," Detective Chen stated cautiously. "We require tangible proof of threatening actions or financial wrongdoing." "Detective Chen," Marcus cut in, pushing a folder across the metal table. "These are reports from Arya's pediatrician, her teachers, and her therapist," he explained. "Dr. Peterson has noted substantial behavioral shifts in Arya over the last year, including heightened anxiety, withdrawal, and what she describes as hypervigilance, common traits in children growing up in emotionally unstable surroundings." Detective Chen took the folder, her eyebrows lifting as she scanned the contents. Dr. Peterson's records indicated that Arya has acquired observational abilities comparable to those of an adult and exhibits an overabundance of... This is troubling. But there's more. I suspect Victoria may have had a role in my first wife's death, and she's been methodically going through Sarah's belongings. He detailed the safety deposit box, Victoria's strange phone calls that Arya had intercepted, and the menacing text message. Detective Chen's attention intensified. "Mr. Thompson, your first wife passed away from cancer, is that right? Were you implying that something sinister had occurred?" Marcus paused, uncertain. Hearing it aloud still felt unreal. "I'm still processing it, but yesterday, Sarah's oncologist, Dr. Michael Chen, contacted me with concerning news. Apparently, Victoria visited Sarah frequently during her last week, offering her unique herbal teas and supplements that she asserted would alleviate the pain. Dr. Chen stated that Sarah's health declined significantly after these visits, with her symptoms worsening in ways not aligned with her cancer's natural progression. Dr. Chen said he'd been wondering about it for 2 years had passed, but Detective Chen sensed he was hesitant to add to their sorrow by voicing his suspicions. She jotted down her thoughts in her file. They'd require substantial evidence to follow that lead. "Do you have any concrete proof of wrongdoing?" Marcus shook his head, his frustration mounting. Not yet, he admitted, but I'm going to that safety deposit box today. Hopefully, whatever Victoria was searching for, whatever Sarah left behind, will hold the answers we're looking for. Mr. Thompson, allow me to add that we conducted an initial review of Victoria Hastings' background last night following your phone call. There are. Marcus leaned in, intrigued. What kind of inconsistencies are we talking about? The trust fund story isn't adding up, the investigator replied. There was a Victoria Hastings from Connecticut, but that woman passed away in a car accident 5 years ago. It seems your wife took on her identity sometime after that. The information struck Marcus forcefully. So, who is she truly? We're still working on it, the investigator continued. But we believe her real name is Victoria Blackwood. She was a licensed practical, a nurse who had worked at various hospitals before her certification was rescinded under questionable circumstances. Detective Chen reviewed her file, noting several patient deaths during her shifts that remained unclear. Although no legal action was taken due to insufficient evidence, the medical board deemed the concerns substantial enough to revoke her license. An hour later, Marcus found himself in the pristine vault of First National Bank with Arya at his side. He'd included her for her protection. He had no faith in. Marcus decided against leaving her anywhere Victoria could find her, and Arya had been adamant that she deserved to know her mother's secrets. Are you prepared for this, Angel? Marcus inquired, clutching Sarah's key. Arya responded with a serious nod, her grip tightening on her crutches. Mommy wanted us to find this, she whispered. I can feel it in my soul. The safety deposit box proved to be more substantial than Marcus had anticipated. Within the compartment, tucked beneath Sarah's crucial documents and a collection of valuable jewelry, lay a manila envelope addressed to Marcus, with the inscription, "If something happens to me." Adjacent to it was an envelope marked for Arya when she reached an age of comprehension, awaited her. Marcus, his hands shaking, unsealed the larger envelope. Photographs, medical records, and a letter penned in Sarah's handwriting were nestled within. His heart pounded as he absorbed the first words. My dearest Marcus, if you're reading this, then my fears about Victoria were justified. Arya, nestled against him, followed along as he read, her exceptional reading abilities allowing her to keep pace. It may be difficult to accept, but Victoria isn't who she claims to be. Her true name is... Victoria Blackwood isn't your typical wealthy heiress from Connecticut. She's a former nurse who had her license revoked following suspicions of accelerating patient deaths at multiple hospitals in the Midwest. When she began frequenting me during my illness, something about her actions just didn't sit right, prompting me to hire a private investigator. Her insistence on handling my medications, her peculiar inquiries about my will and Arya's trust fund, and most notably, the way she gazed at our daughter when she believed herself unseen, all sent chills down my spine. Marcus, I'm convinced Victoria has been gradually poisoning me. The symptoms I endured in my last few weeks didn't align with my cancer's advancement. I've secreted evidence within our house. Check behind the false panel in our bedroom closet. A recording device is concealed there, capturing several of her phone calls with someone she refers to as Richard. The most terrifying revelation is the truth I uncovered about her real motives. Victoria views Arya as a roadblock to inheriting my trust fund and your fortune. The will I submitted last month stipulates I'm entrusting everything to Arya, providing for her until she reaches 25, with you as her trustee. Victoria receives no inheritance if she's not married to you, and her share would be even smaller if anything were to happen to both of you. I deeply regret that I can't personally safeguard you both. But please don't allow her to prevail. Don't let her harm our beloved daughter. There's additional evidence in the smaller envelope, but it's best to wait until Arya is older before revealing it to her. My love always, Sarah P.S. Dr. Michael Chen has been inquiring about my treatment. He's a kind individual who genuinely wanted to assist me. If you need help, rely on him. They required medical expertise to determine the extent of Victoria's actions. Marcus's trembling hands struggled to maintain a grip on the letter. Arya, peering over his shoulder with her heightened senses, turned ashen but kept her composure. "Daddy," she breathed. Mommy knew Mommy Victoria was dangerous. Among the other papers were bank records revealing substantial payments to Victoria under her true identity, spanning 8 months prior to Sarah's death. Medical records from 3 separate hospitals pertaining to Victoria were also discovered. Marcus was disturbed by the patterns of unexplained patient deaths that had occurred during Victoria's shifts. What truly unsettled him was a photocopy of Victoria's research. It revealed internet searches on inherited diseases, life insurance policies for children, and ways to disguise accidents as natural occurrences. However, the most terrifying find was a handwritten note in Victoria's handwriting. "The child's condition provides the perfect cover. Accidents happen to disabled children frequently. No one doubts the inevitability of tragedy when it appears unavoidable." Marcus felt. Arya tensed beside him upon reading those words. "Daddy, is that about me?" she asked. Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang, an unknown number flashing on the screen. Victoria's tone was altered. It was cold, devoid of warmth, and utterly calculating. "I presume you've been occupied this morning playing detective," Victoria stated. "Victoria, where are you?" Marcus inquired. "Close enough to know you went to the bank." A chillingly confident laugh escaped her. "Did you find enjoyment in reading Sarah's paranoid delusions? She was always too distrustful for her own sake. You killed her." It wasn't a query. It was a stark accusation. Victoria's laughter rang out, a sound lacking any. "Sarah was already fading, Marcus. I simply expedited the process. Saved everyone a great deal of pain. It was a merciful act, truly. And you intended to harm Arya as well, didn't you? Arya is an obstacle that needs to be eliminated. Do you comprehend the immense wealth that child represents? Your entire fortune, Marcus. Under the right conditions, I could inherit it all." Marcus felt Arya snuggle closer, her small form shaking, but her expression resolute. "You're delusional, Victoria. I'm simply being realistic. I've had this in the works for 2 years. Marcus, ever since I learned about Sarah's trust fund from the hospital records. Do you really think our meeting was coincidence? Your wife's cancer was just an opportunity that fell into my lap. The police know everything now, Victoria. Dr. Chen has been asking questions, and they're investigating Sarah's death." "Oh, Marcus, you sweet, naive man. You think the police can protect you? I've covered my tracks very carefully. And besides, I have insurance you don't know about." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "What are you talking about?" "While you were playing detective this morning, I was making some very interesting discoveries of my own. Did you know your home security system has been recording everything for months, including some very interesting conversations between you and certain business associates?" Marcus quickly tried to think of what she might mean. A wave of dread washed over him as he understood she was referring to confidential conversations he'd had with his lawyers concerning certain ruthless business strategies that, while legally sound, might appear. "It's all questionable out of context," Victoria went on. "I've been uncovering some truly fascinating financial dealings, though. It's astonishing how easily legitimate business can appear suspicious when presented in a certain light. Offshore accounts, cash transactions, meetings with individuals who have, shall we say, unique backgrounds. Don't believe me? Check your email, darling. I've sent you a sneak peek at what I've assembled. Should anything befall me, copies of all my documents will be forwarded to the FBI, the IRS, and several Financial crime investigators would dismantle your business empire under such intense scrutiny. Marcus's phone vibrated with an email, the attached documents sending a chill down his spine. Victoria had acquired financial records and communications that, if misinterpreted, could paint his legitimate operations in a criminal light. "What do you want, Victoria?" he thought. $75 million transferred to an account I'll provide the details for. In return, I vanish without a trace, and all evidence against you disappears. You've got 4 hours. He had a choice to make. And if he declined, she threatened a decade in federal prison while she raised Arya, his daughter, as her own. Marcus knew she'd make sure Arya understood daily that her father had prioritized greed over her well-being. The call ended. Marcus stared at the evidence laid out before him. Proof of Victoria's guilt, but also evidence she'd been orchestrating this trap for years, anticipating his every action, preparing for this exact moment. Arya tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, she's not being truthful about certain things," his daughter said. Marcus gazed down at her. "What? Are you referring to the recordings Angel claims to have, Angel?" "I know the location of the security system's files, because Mr. James showed me last year when I was concerned about unauthorized individuals." Arya spoke calmly and thoughtfully. "The system only retains recordings for 30 days unless someone manually saves them. Moreover, Victoria wouldn't know the password to save them permanently." Marcus looked at his daughter, understanding anew that her intellect might be their only hope. "And Dad, there's something else important I need to tell you. When Mommy..." Victoria converses with Richard over the phone, occasionally using speakerphone, believing I can't hear from upstairs. However, sound easily travels through our house's old heating vents. "Angel, what did you pick up?" Richard's assistance isn't solely motivated by financial gain. He's also afraid of Victoria. She holds something over him, something concerning a hospital fire where fatalities occurred. I suspect she's coercing him with threats, leveraging this information to make him comply. Marcus felt a glimmer of optimism. If Victoria was using blackmail against Richard, perhaps they could manipulate him into opposing her. Marcus's heart pounded. "There's something else, Daddy," Arya continued. "Yesterday, while I was supposed to be napping, I caught Victoria in your office. She wasn't just reading papers this time. She was removing them from your safe. I believe she's been taking crucial documents for quite a while now. If Victoria had been stealing business files, it was a serious offense, a federal crime that could lead to imprisonment, no matter what else happened. Arya, do you recall specifically which papers you saw her take? I'm not sure I could recall them, Daddy. But I took pictures with my tablet because I was worried she was stealing from you." Marcus stared at his remarkable daughter. While he'd been blind to Victoria's schemes, Arya had been quietly gathering evidence with the instincts of someone far older and wiser. "Should I show the pictures to Detective Chen?" Arya asked. Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed with another text from Victoria. "Time's ticking, Marcus. And just so you know, I'm not the only one watching your daughter today. Make the wrong choice, and you'll never see her again." Marcus felt ice in his veins as he realized Victoria's threat had just escalated from financial ruin to kidnapping. But as he looked at his brave, intelligent daughter, he realized that Victoria had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated Arya Thompson, and that might be the key to stopping her once and for all. "Daddy, I'm scared," Arya admitted quietly, "but I think I know how we can catch her. Want to hear my plan?" Back at the opulent mansion, Marcus anxiously paced the living room as Detective Chen and FBI agents, Agent Sarah Martinez, positioned the recording equipment. Arya, seated cross-legged on the sofa with her tablet resting in her lap, appeared remarkably calm for a 6-year-old facing a life-threatening situation. "Mr. Thompson," Agent Martinez stated, examining the evidence gathered from the bank, Arya's pictures and descriptions could be vital. However, we must fully comprehend the nature of the threat before Victoria reaches out to you again. Arya gazed up at her father with her insightful eyes. Ought I to display the photographs I took, Daddy? Marcus nodded, his heart racing as Arya navigated to a photo album on her tablet. I started taking pictures after Mommy Victoria said mean things about Mommy Sarah, she explained to the agents. Matter-of-factly, Dr. Peterson taught me that when grown-ups do bad things, other good grown-ups need proof to help. The first photo showed Victoria in Marcus's office, clearly photographed through a crack in the door. She was holding documents from his business safe, photographing them with her phone. I know she wasn't supposed to be in Daddy's private safe because he told me it was only for very important papers, Arya explained. So when I saw her there, I knew something was wrong. Agent Martinez leaned forward intently. Arya, do you know how she got into the safe? I think she watched Daddy open it. Our house has lots of mirrors, and from the hallway you can see the reflection of the safe in the mirror above Daddy's desk. I figured that out when I was playing hide-and-seek. Marcus felt a chill. His ostensibly private office proved to be more public than he had anticipated, Arya noted. I swiped to a different photo, one of Victoria on the phone in the kitchen. That's when her conversation with Richard began. She's unaware I can hear her, because an old heating vent runs from the kitchen straight up to my playroom. What did you overhear them discussing, sweetheart? Detective Chen inquired softly. Richard always seems apprehensive when speaking to his mother, Victoria. She makes statements like, "Remember what occurred in Chicago, and do you wish to have the fire investigation reopened?" He complies with everything she commands. Agent Martinez shared a look with Detective Chen asked Arya, "Did they ever discuss your father's businesses?" Arya replied, "Yes. Victoria has a record of all of my father's properties and who visits them. She's aware of the children's hospital because she used to work there during my mother Sarah's illness, and she knows about my school because she attended building meetings with us." Marcus then realized something. Victoria hadn't required unauthorized access to secure locations. She had legitimate access through her connection to them and her past employment. There's another thing. Important, Arya continued, swiping to more photos. Mommy Victoria has been stealing things from our house for months. Not big things. Little things like Daddy's business cards, copies of papers, and especially things that belong to Mommy Sarah. And the photos showed Victoria carefully going through Sarah's personal items, photographing documents and jewelry. Why do you think she wanted your mommy's things? Agent Martinez asked. I think she was looking for secrets. Mommy Sarah was really smart about money and business stuff. She assisted her father with significant choices. I believe Victoria, the mother, desired to be informed of everything Mommy Sarah knew. Detective Chen meticulously recorded everything. Arya, you stated that Victoria and Richard discussed locations other than your home. Do you recall where? The dilapidated warehouse by the waterfront where Richard occasionally resides. Victoria visits that location when she's extremely upset. And there's a storage facility where they store boxes filled with documents and other items they've collected from various places. Marcus's chest constricted. Angel, have you ever heard of these locations? On occasion, when Victoria believed I was asleep in the car, she would drive past them to ensure everything was in order. I'm quite skilled at feigning sleep, and I possess a remarkable memory for places. Agent Martinez was already communicating with his team through the radio. We require surveillance on both locations immediately, he stated. There's more, Arya said softly. During a particularly harsh moment yesterday, when Victoria was especially unkind to me, she uttered something that frightened me. What did she say, darling? Marcus lowered himself to one knee beside his daughter. She said that after today, she wouldn't have to pretend to care about stupid little girls with broken legs anymore. She said soon she'd have enough money to go far away and live like a queen. The room fell silent as everyone processed the implications. But I think she's lying about some things, Arya continued. When people lie a lot, they start making mistakes. Victoria has been making lots of mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Detective Chen asked. She told me she grew up in Connecticut, but she doesn't know things that someone from Connecticut would know. And she said her parents died in a car crash, but one time when she was on the phone, she talked to someone she called Mom and complained about not having enough money. Marcus stared at his daughter in amazement. While Victoria had been playing psychological games with a 6-year-old, Arya had been quietly cataloging inconsistencies with the sharp attention to detail of a trained investigator. Additionally, Arya mentioned that while she says she loves her father, her behavior changes when no one else is around. When it's just the two of us, she utters remarks such as, "Your father is too dim-witted to recognize the truth staring him in the face, and this entire family deserves the consequences." Agent Martinez scribbled furiously in his notepad. "Arya, do you believe Victoria is aware that you've been observant of these occurrences?" "No, because grown-ups typically assume children don't grasp significant matters. But Mommy Sarah taught me that being small doesn't equate to being foolish. She stated that my brain is my superpower." "Your mother was incredibly intelligent," Detective Chen said softly. "I think of her every day," Arya replied. He simply stated, "But I believe she'd be proud that I'm attempting to safeguard Daddy, just as she protected both of us." Marcus felt tears welling up in his eyes. His courageous little girl had been shouldering this responsibility alone for months, employing intelligence and bravery far exceeding her years to gather evidence against a woman who was methodically tearing their family apart. "Arya, you mentioned having a plan," Agent Martinez said. "Can you elaborate on it?" Arya's face became solemn. "Victoria believes she possesses superior intelligence compared to others, but she believes she's superior to all of us combined. She anticipates Daddy will be frightened and obey her commands. However, what if we feign compliance, granting her desires before catching her when she feels secure?" "That's incredibly risky, Angel," Marcus cautioned. "But Daddy, she's already plotting to harm people regardless of whether we give her money. I overheard her telling Richard that loose ends must be permanently resolved. This implies she intends to hurt us anyway." The adults shared worried looks. Arya was correct. Victoria had already gone too far. Many lines just to vanish with the money. "What's your plan, Arya?" Agent Martinez inquired. "Victoria wants her father to meet her to hand over the cash, right? But what if we arrange the meeting in a location swarming with law enforcement? And what if we ensure she confesses to all her crimes aloud for everyone to hear?" Marcus stared at his daughter, a blend of pride and fear in his eyes. "How would we manage that?" "Victoria is eager to show Daddy just how clever she is and how she managed to trick him. Those who believe themselves intellectually superior often feel compelled to boast about it. If Daddy appears apprehensive and inquires about her actions, she'll likely divulge all the details." Agent Martinez nodded in agreement. "That's a shrewd psychological evaluation. Most criminals in Victoria's situation do indeed relish their accomplishments." And Arya added, "If we choose a suitable location for the meeting, law enforcement can be discreetly positioned nearby to overhear everything and apprehend her when she confesses." Detective Chen inched closer. "Arya, in your opinion, where do you think be a good place for this meeting?" "The children's hospital where Mommy Sarah used to go. Victoria knows that place really well, so she'll feel safe there. But it's also a place where lots of people work, so the police can pretend to be doctors and nurses." Marcus was astounded by his daughter's strategic thinking. "Angel, that's incredibly smart, but it's also very dangerous. What if something goes wrong?" "Daddy, something's already wrong. Victoria will continue to cause harm, until someone intervenes. And I believe Mommy, Sarah would desire us to possess the courage to prevent other families from experiencing the pain we endured. As if prompted by their discussion, Marcus's phone rang. "Victoria, put it on speaker," Agent Martinez ordered, signaling for silence. "Victoria," Marcus responded, his tone measured. "Have you reached a conclusion? Time is of the essence, and I'm not renowned for my tolerance." "I need to meet with you face to face to go over the details," Marcus stated, adhering to the script Agent Martinez had hastily provided. "This is too significant to discuss over the phone," he wrote on a notepad. Victoria paused, considering his words. "Fascinating. You're attempting to negotiate. I suppose that's the hallmark of a successful entrepreneur. I need to be certain I comprehend your desires and what you propose in exchange." "Very well. There's a coffee shop in the children's hospital, the very place where your beloved Sarah spent her last days." "How fitting. Meet me there in 2 hours." The reason for this location, Victoria's laughter was devoid of warmth. "It amuses me, Marcus, and for the simple reason that that hospital holds a special place in my heart, filled with happy memories. Some of my most impressive achievements were accomplished there." The call ended. Agent Martinez was already working with her team. "We can have agents disguised as hospital staff within an hour." "What about Aria?" Marcus asked. "I won't endanger her." "Actually, Daddy," Aria said softly, "I think I should go too." "Absolutely not." "Listen to me," Aria said with unexpected determination. "Victoria will be anticipating you to be scared and isolated. If I'm present, she'll assume you invited me out of desperation and—" Agent Martinez pondered this from a psychological perspective. He reasoned that Victoria might become more confident and more inclined to be truthful if she believed she was in complete command of the situation. Aria chimed in. "If Victoria sees me, she might make hurtful remarks about what she did to Mommy Sarah and what she planned to do to me. That would be helpful for our case, wouldn't it?" Marcus was caught between a surge of pride for his daughter's bravery and a crippling fear at the idea of endangering her. "Not even close to Victoria," Aria said, taking his hand. "I vowed to stay by your side the entire time," she said. "And Dad, I'm no longer afraid of Victoria. She tried to make me feel weak and helpless, but Mommy Sarah showed me that I'm courageous and strong and intelligent. Victoria can't change that about me." Marcus, seeing the unwavering determination in his daughter's blue eyes, understood that Aria had already endured the worst Victoria could inflict. His daughter had suffered through months of psychological anguish and came out not as a casualty, but as a hero ready to protect others, he said at last. "Angel," he continued, "will handle this as a team and will strictly adhere to every safety precaution the agents provide." Aria's face broke into a smile, the first genuinely joyful one Marcus had witnessed from her in months. "Together, Daddy." Precisely as Sarah would have desired. As FBI agents orchestrated what would prove to be the most crucial sting operation of Marcus's career, he understood that his 6-year-old daughter was more than just courageous. She possessed a remarkable intellect. She was poised to assist in the downfall of the woman who had shattered their family, and the impending showdown loomed, threatening countless lives. As Marcus and Aria navigated the bustling corridors of the children's hospital, heading towards the coffee shop, the final confrontation was about to unfold. Agent Martinez and her team, seamlessly blending in as medical personnel, maintenance workers, and casual visitors, were already strategically placed throughout the vicinity. Marcus clutched a briefcase filled with forged bank transfer documents, while Aria, using her crutches, strolled beside him, appearing like any ordinary child visiting the hospital. Concealed, microphones were discreetly sewn into both their outfits, relaying everything to the FBI team. "Remember, Angel," Marcus murmured as they neared the coffee shop. "If anything feels off, Just give me a sign, and we'll get out of here right away. Arya met his gaze, her expression serious, yet composed. I remember, Dad, she affirmed. Touch my butterfly necklace if I need to leave. Victoria was seated at a corner table, appearing the epitome of a sorrowful stepmother in her black dress and simple jewelry. She rose to her feet, a warm smile gracing her lips as they came closer, but Marcus finally noticed the icy glint in her eyes, a coldness he'd previously overlooked. Marcus, darling, she said, extending her arms as if inviting him in. And sweet little Arya, I wasn't anticipating you'd bring her. Arya, sitting down in a chair with her crutches beside her, replied simply, I go everywhere with Daddy now. I don't like being apart from him. Victoria's smile wavered slightly. Of course, sweetheart, she said. Given yesterday's events, I understand you might be feeling a little disoriented. I'm not confused, Arya stated calmly. Marcus settled into his seat, setting the briefcase on the table. Victoria, let's be direct. What is it you desire, and what are you proposing in compensation? Victoria scanned the coffee shop, observing the other customers engaged in their daily routines. $75 million, as I previously stated. In return, I vanish completely, and all the problematic evidence I've gathered will vanish with me. What evidence? Guided by Agent Martinez's advice to coax Victoria into speaking, Marcus inquired, Oh, Marcus, where shall I commence? Victoria's eyes sparkled with a sense of triumph. Let's begin with your wife's demise. Were you aware that Sarah suspected me for weeks leading up to her death? She even employed a private investigator. What discoveries did the investigator uncover? Alas, nothing beneficial for Sarah, but her intuitions proved accurate. I was subtly incorporating specific substances into her medication, nothing drastic, merely enough to hasten the natural progression of events. Marcus fought to quell the rising rage within him, but forced himself to stay. Calm yourself. Why did you do such a thing? It was because Sarah was taking an excessive amount of time to die, and my patience was wearing thin. Do you comprehend how draining it is to feign care for someone you loathe? She was so frail, so pitiful, constantly prattling on about her cherished daughter and her wonderful husband. Arya had become very quiet beside Marcus, but her voice remained steady as she stated, You hated my mommy. Victoria met Arya's gaze with a smile that sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. Hated is a rather strong term, sweetheart. I just found her superfluous. She possessed everything I desired, yet lacked the strength to truly value it. Marcus, perplexed, inquired, What I can't fathom is how you orchestrated all this. How did you even learn about Sarah's illness? Victoria's laughter echoed, clearly relishing the chance to unveil her cunning. Oh, Marcus, she said, it was brilliantly simple. I was employed at the hospital when Sarah first arrived for tests. I perused her medical records, observed her husband's wealth, and recognized this was my opportunity. Your opportunity for what? To finally attain what was rightfully mine. Do you comprehend what? Isn't it infuriating to spend your entire life watching others effortlessly receive everything they desire, while you toil endlessly for mere scraps? That's why you chose to insert yourself into our world. I delved into every detail about your family. I discovered Sarah's circle of friends, her passions, her volunteer activities. After that, I simply molded myself into the kind of person she'd naturally gravitate towards. It proved astonishingly simple. Marcus felt a wave of nausea as the truth dawned on him. Victoria's entire connection with their family had been meticulously planned. And to think, Sarah had once placed her trust in her. After she placed her trust in me, I had control over everything. Her home, her finances, her business connections, all within my reach. Sarah, so thankful for my companionship during her illness, never doubted my interest in family affairs. Arya spoke again, her voice displaying a wisdom uncommon for her 6 years. You treated me poorly because you desired my father's wealth. Victoria's facade crumbled completely as she met Arya's gaze. You were a problem, little one. A highly inconvenient problem. Did you happen to know that in the event of a tragic occurrence, would your father receive your trust fund, and if he were to pass away, his grieving wife would then inherit it all? Marcus stated, his voice low and menacing. You were plotting to kill us both. Eventually, yes, but your actions yesterday, with your over-the-top show of protectiveness, forced my hand. Really, Marcus, you threw me out for a little discipline. The child needs to understand her position in life, her place. Marcus, disabled children need strict guidance. They must recognize that the world doesn't bend to their restrictions. Forever, Victoria stated, a hint of steel in her voice. In fact, I was doing her a kindness by starting her training early. Marcus observed Arya's hands ball into tight fists, though she kept her silence. But now, Victoria continued, her smile taking on a dangerous edge. Thanks to your involvement, I need to expedite my plans, which brings us to today's agreement. What if you decide not to honor your end of the bargain? Victoria's smile sharpened. Then, several rather intriguing developments would occur. Firstly, the documentation I've assembled regarding your business practices will be presented to federal investigators, including details about your creative accounting methods and offshore financial dealings. Gifts disguised as consulting fees won't save you. Legality won't be the deciding factor. The investigation itself will be your downfall. While you're entangled with federal agents, I'll be seeking emergency custody of young Arya. Her father's investigation for financial crimes makes a stable home environment crucial. Wouldn't you agree? Arya gazed up at Victoria with her piercing blue eyes. You can't care for me, she stated. You don't love me. Love, Victoria scoffed derisively. Love is a sentiment for the vulnerable, like your mother. Sweetheart, I'll ensure your well-being just as I did for her, effectively and permanently. The statement hung heavy, a veiled confession of murder. Marcus leaned in, his voice sharp. You're confessing to Sarah's death. I'm acknowledging I assisted a woman in finding peace in her final moments. Legally, those are distinct matters. And you're threatening Arya's life. I'm merely stating that accidents befall children with disabilities. Tragic, yes, but unfortunately, not unforeseen. Across the coffee shop, Agent Martinez discreetly signaled with their hand. They possessed all the necessary information. There's just one issue with your plan, Victoria Marcus stated. Oh, and what would that be? Arya offered a genuine smile, the first since they'd taken their seats. You overlooked the fact that intelligent young girls become intelligent adults, and my mother taught me that bullies are simply afraid individuals pretending to be powerful. Victoria's brow furrowed, a sense of unease washing over her. The other issue, Marcus added, is that you underestimated my daughter. Tell her, Angel. Arya rummaged in her tiny purse and retrieved her tablet. I've been recording everything I said, Mommy Victoria, just as the police instructed me, Arya replied. Victoria's complexion paled. You little wretch, she exclaimed, reaching for the device. However, before she could grab it, Agent Martinez and 3 fellow FBI agents swiftly encircled their table. Victoria Blackwood, you are under arrest for the murder of Sarah Thompson, Agent Martinez declared, brandishing handcuffs. Along with conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and terroristic threats, he added. Fury contorted Victoria's face as the realization dawned on her. She was trapped. Don't think you can use anything I said here, Victoria hissed. Agent Martinez, however, remained composed. Everything you said constitutes a voluntary confession to multiple felonies, documented with the agreement of those present, he stated. As Victoria was handcuffed and informed of her rights, she glared one last time at Arya with venomous intensity. You think you've triumphed, you little monster, she spat. Others know your true value. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Arya replied softly. Since evildoers always falter when virtuous individuals unite, as Victoria was escorted away, Marcus crouched down beside his daughter, enveloping her in a tight embrace. You were so brave, Angel. Incredibly brave. We were brave together, Daddy, she replied. Just like Mommy Sarah would have wished. Agent Martinez walked towards them, a smile on his face. That was outstanding work from both of you. Victoria's confession, along with the evidence you gathered, will ensure she spends the rest of her life behind bars. What about Richard? Marcus inquired. He's already in custody. Once we apprehended him, he couldn't confess quickly enough. It turns out Victoria had been using threats to coerce him into... Years after a hospital fire he unintentionally caused, he's fully collaborating with our inquiry. As they exited the hospital, Arya looked up at her father and asked, Daddy, can we go see Mommy Sarah's tombstone? I want to let her know that the harmful woman can no longer hurt anyone. Marcus's eyes welled up with tears. Of course, Angel, he replied. I believe she'd be happy to hear that. 6 months on, Marcus found himself in his newly renovated home office, gazing out at the garden where Arya was playing with Dr. Michael Chen, now a frequent visitor. Since the trial concluded, a visitor brought a surprising revelation. The man who had previously been Sarah's oncologist was actually Arya's biological father. Although the DNA confirmation was unexpected, it filled their growing family with unanticipated happiness. Their lives had undergone a profound transformation. The end of Victoria's trial and her subsequent life sentence lifted a burden from both Marcus and Arya, a weight they hadn't fully acknowledged they were carrying. The house seemed to breathe easier, warmer and brighter, echoing with laughter instead of the tension that had previously hung heavy. For 2 years, the butterflies had been a constant presence in their lives. Daddy, Arya exclaimed from the garden, where she was instructing Dr. Chen, whom she affectionately referred to as Uncle Mike, on the correct way to plant butterfly flowers. Come look, the butterflies have returned. Marcus couldn't help but smile as he observed his daughter's confident stride through the garden. Physical therapy following Victoria's arrest had significantly improved her leg strength. Although she still relied on crutches for longer journeys, she was now capable of walking short distances unaided. Significantly, the once fearful and hyper-vigilant child, who had navigated a life of constant emotional peril, had transformed into a confident and joyful young girl, secure in her own identity. The butterflies feel safe here now, Arya had told him recently, echoing the sentiment we share. Dr. Chen had been a transformative presence in their lives. His sincere care for Sarah during her illness had blossomed into a profound affection for Arya, exceeding any typical familial bond. He was patient, compassionate, and exceptionally intelligent. All that Marcus could have ever desired in both You have to see this, Marcus, Dr. Chen exclaimed. Arya has built an entire ecosystem to lure specific butterfly species. She's been studying their migratory habits and favorite plants. Marcus went to join them in the garden, filled with admiration for his daughter's brilliance and perseverance. Angel, how did you manage to learn all of this? Arya replied. I've been reading about butterflies ever since Mommy Sarah passed away. Gently patted the soil around the newly planted flower. People always told me I was like a butterfly, that I might appear fragile at first, but I'd develop strong wings and soar. Your mother possessed great wisdom, Dr. Chen remarked softly, and she was accurate in her assessment of your wings. The trial was challenging for all involved, yet Arya's testimony was delivered with the courage and lucidity that profoundly moved everyone present in the courtroom. Her meticulous observations and documented evidence proved essential in obtaining Victoria's conviction, not only for Sarah's murder, but also for the fatalities of 7 other patients across hospitals where Victoria had worked. "Dr. Chen," Arya said, lifting her gaze from her garden, "can I ask you something about Mommy Sarah?" "Of course, dear," he replied. "What is it you want to know? Were you truly sad when she passed away? I mean, really sad, not just the kind of sad a doctor feels." Dr. Chen stopped planting, his face becoming contemplative. "Arya, I was very sad. Your mother was an extraordinary woman, and I held her in high regard. But I am also thankful that I had the opportunity to know her, even for a brief time. I believe she would have been pleased that you're here now, assisting with my care and—" "Daddy," Marcus's voice choked with emotion. The bond forming between Dr. Chen and their family felt effortless and genuine, as if Sarah had somehow guided this healing process for everyone. "I have something to show you both," Dr. Chen announced, reaching into his jacket. "I've been searching for the perfect time." He retrieved a small velvet box from his pocket and presented it to Arya. "This belonged to your mother," he explained. "She gave it to me during one of our talks before you were born. She stated, 'Should anything ever, when it came to her, I wanted to ensure you received it when you were mature enough to grasp its significance,'" Arya said as she gently opened the box, revealing a delicate butterfly pendant on a silver chain. A miniature photograph of baby Arya was nestled inside. "She knew," Arya whispered, her eyes sparkling with amazement. "She knew what, sweetheart?" Marcus inquired. "She knew you were my other father," Arya responded to Dr. Chen. "Therefore, she wished for you to safeguard this for me." Dr. Chen nodded, his eyes shining with unshed emotion. "Your mother was She was incredibly perceptive. She understood before I had the courage to reveal it to her. Instead of anger, she felt gratitude, knowing that you would always have someone in the world who loved you unconditionally." Marcus observed Dr. Chen placing the necklace around Arya's neck. Seeing his daughter adorned with her mother's pendant amidst the butterfly garden Arya had created brought him a sense of peace he hadn't experienced since Sarah's passing. "Daddy," Arya asked Marcus, her gaze turning to him, "I've had something significant on my mind." "What is it?" "Sweetheart, I want to find a way to assist other children like myself. Children who might be afraid because unkind adults are harming them." Marcus lowered himself to his daughter's height. "What were you thinking?" "Well, I've learned a great deal about recognizing when adults are being dishonest or cruel, and I know how to collect evidence and speak with police officers. Perhaps I could share those things with other kids." Dr. Chen beamed. "That's a fantastic idea, Arya. Several organizations are dedicated to assisting children facing challenging circumstances. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this." "Really?" Arya's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, mirroring my own idea. "What if we transformed a section of our house into a safe haven for children feeling scared? We have so many spare rooms, and Uncle Mike has mentioned that the butterfly garden has a soothing effect on people." Marcus felt a surge of pride. His daughter, who had overcome psychological trauma and emerged resilient, now wished to leverage her experience to support others. "That's a wonderful idea, Angel. We'll investigate it. And Dad, I'd like to write a book about Mommy Sarah. I want to focus on the positive, on how she showed me how to be brave, intelligent, and kind. Other children who have lost their mothers might find it helpful." Marcus had to fight back tears. I believe Mommy Sarah would be so proud. As the late afternoon sun cast a golden glow through the butterfly garden, Marcus pondered the path that had led them to this point. Victoria's wickedness had almost torn their family apart. However, in their resistance, through their experiences, they unearthed strengths they had never imagined they had. Arya had transformed from a scared, mistreated child into a self-assured young woman with a defined sense of purpose. Marcus realized that true riches weren't found in monetary holdings, but in the love and loyalty of those closest to him, and Dr. Chen discovered a family he had never dared to dream of. "Daddy," Arya murmured, resting against him as they observed butterflies fluttering among the blossoms. "I believe our story has a happy conclusion in the end." "Angel, what leads you to say that? Since we learned, love proves mightier than hate. Truth prevails over falsehood, and families extend beyond blood ties. They encompass those who choose to love you." Marcus surveyed his idyllic family, himself, his brilliant daughter, and the kind man who had been instrumental in their healing. "I think you're absolutely right, sweetheart," he agreed. Arya, with a playful smirk, added, "I overheard you and Uncle Mike discussing the possibility of another child someday. I believe I'd make a wonderful big sister." Marcus's cheeks reddened as Dr. Chen, he chuckled warmly. "You don't miss a thing, do you, little one? Mommy Sarah taught me to focus on what truly matters, and families expanding with love is certainly significant." Walking back to the house, Marcus understood that Victoria's attempt to tear them apart had surprisingly resulted in something more wonderful than he could have ever conceived. They had discovered a love that was more profound, resilient, and genuine than anything he'd experienced before. The young girl who had previously, the man who had once wept in solitude during emotional abuse, was now dedicated to empowering other children to find their inner strength. He, who had almost lost everything to a cunning manipulator, realized that his true treasures were irreplaceable and beyond the reach of theft or destruction. And Marcus, somewhere deep inside, believed Sarah was looking down on them all with a gentle smile, knowing her sacrifice had made a difference. Her daughter was secure, joyful, and cherished by not only one father, but two men who would defend her with unwavering devotion. "Daddy," Arya stated as they arrived at the front door of their home, Angel said, her voice filled with contentment. "I love our family just as it is now." Marcus echoed her sentiment, his heart overflowing with love. "Me too, Angel, me too." They settled into their familiar evening routine within the house. Homework at the kitchen table, Dr. Chen assisting Arya with a science project while Marcus cooked dinner, and the comfortable banter of a family that fit together perfectly. Later that evening, as Marcus tucked Arya into bed, she gazed up at him with those insightful blue eyes that mirrored Sarah's so closely. "Dad, do you think Mom Sarah realizes that we're happy once more?" Marcus tenderly kissed her forehead. "I believe she's been watching over us, ensuring we return to happiness," he mused. "Good," Arya mumbled sleepily. "Because tomorrow I intend to begin work on that book about her and the Butterfly Sanctuary project, and perhaps we should contact some individuals about assisting frightened children." Marcus smiled at his daughter's lofty aspirations. "Tomorrow sounds ideal for fresh starts, Angel." As Marcus switched off the light and shut her door, he was struck by the indomitable strength of the human spirit. Victoria, she had attempted to shatter them, but in doing so, she had molded them into something indomitable. Their narrative transcended mere survival against evil. It was a testament to choosing love, hope, and healing amidst darkness. It was the story of a young girl who refused to let cruelty dictate her, and the family that found strength in their vulnerabilities. And as Marcus nestled into his own bed, enveloped by the tranquility of a home brimming with authentic love, he understood that the most beautiful chapters of their story were yet to be penned. The butterfly had certainly developed. Her wings were in place, and she was prepared to take flight.